I've been using the Acer Swift 3 in my studio and day-to-day workflow for over a year now. It's thin, light, has great battery life, but there were two things that I just really didn't like about the Acer Swift 3 that another laptop, which recently arrived in my studio, had. Let's get talking about the HP ProBook 630G8 versus the Acer Swift 3.
Let's get rocking!
If you're new to the channel, my name is Benji Kaiser. This is where you're going to find the best tech and tools for creative professionals. If that sounds like your kind of place, consider subscribing and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of the future videos. Also, if you're curious about the pricing and exact availability of either of these laptops, you can head down in the description below and click one of those links. Now, if you do make a purchase of those links, we'll get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. And that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. Both of these laptops come in a smaller form factor, but have different screen sizes. The Acer Swift 3 has a slightly thinner bezel and overall a slightly bigger screen at 14 inches, whereas the HP ProBook comes with a 13.3-inch display. Let's take a look at how these two laptops are put together. Both have all aluminum chassis, identical keyboard arrangements, all-in-one trackpads, and a fingerprint reader, 720p webcam, and one single hinge along the bottom of the entire bezel of the screen for increased durability. Let's get into each of these in further detail. Regarding the aluminum build quality, you will find both laptops nearly the same density and build quality. The Swift 3 has more rounded edges than the ProBook. I like the ProBook's sharper edges. They won't cut you or anything like that nature, but it makes the ProBook have a little bit more of an aggressive professional look over the Swift 3's more rounded, soft appearance. The Swift 3 is 0.63 inches thick at 2.65 pounds, and the ProBook 630 is 0.62 inches thick at 2.51 pounds. The keyboard deck is where things get real easy to identify a winner. The ProBook has an incredible soft touch keyboard deck and very responsive keys. The keyboard is the same keyboard that can be found on the HP Omen, which may be in fact my current favorite keyboard on the market. It is quiet, the keys are incredibly comfortable to touch, and each of the keys is extremely stable, giving you a satisfying, snappy response when the key is activated upon press. The reason this head-to-head review is a great comparison is because the Swift 3, this is one area it's really lacking. When I slide my finger back and forth across the keycaps on the Swift 3, there's a lot of wobble. So when you hold your finger over the edge of the key, I can already begin to feel the key depress. So whenever I go to press the key, it feels really mushy and does not have that really nice pop back responsiveness that feels very satisfying and very, confidence invoking that, okay, yes, I pressed the key, I made a good connection, and I've now typed on my screen. Whereas on the ProBook keyboard, the keys are very stable. There is no mushy feeling when my fingers are resting on the keys, and when I push the key down to activate it, there is a firm, even resistance to my press. When released, it snaps back quickly, and the key press is very satisfying. The trackpad is also an area that I have not necessarily been a fan of the past year using the Swift 3. I've noticed it misses clicks from time to time. It is not great at dragging and dropping objects, but it also feels slightly mushy, similar to the keycaps. The HP ProBook, on the other hand, is responsive and snappy. I have not noticed any missed clicks, and it drags and drops objects very well. It is again very reminiscent of the HP Omen, however slightly smaller, and does not have that epic tacky feeling like the Omen trackpad does. But still, like I said, excellent trackpad. Here is a sample of me using the keyboards and trackpads, so you can hear it for yourself. Okay, so right now I feel like I've been hating really hard on the Swift 3, but that's not my point at all. So let's talk about some things that I really like about the Swift 3. The Swift 3 has a fantastic battery life. I've taken this laptop on a few road trips and worked a full 9-hour day. Okay, I was not driving. My wife was driving, just to be clear. And then after working that full 9-hour day at half screen brightness, my computer, the Swift 3, still had 23% battery remaining. The battery is rated for about 11 hours of runtime at half brightness, and I can say this to be true off of my own experience. The ProBook has a great battery life as well, but slightly lower, rated at roughly 10 hours. The Swift 3's screen is also slightly larger, as mentioned earlier, giving you a little more room for your work. This could be a bonus to you as it squeezes about a ½ inch of room on your screen, but keep in mind that the laptop is a little bit larger in form factor as well, since that was not accomplished in making the bezels really necessarily very small, just making the build a little bit larger, as you can see in the B-roll. Taking charge once again, the ProBook is going to have a brighter and slightly more color accurate screen. The Swift 3 snagged a 253 nits at full brightness, and the HP ProBook 630 was 295 nits at full brightness. The HP ProBook 630 can reach a color gamut range of 68% sRGB, 50% Adobe RGB, and 50% DCI-P3. The Acer Swift 3 can reach a color gamut range of 64% sRGB, 47% Adobe RGB, and 47% DCI-P3. So it's not that much more accurate, but it is brighter. Now, to be honest, when I took my first look at the ProBook, I did not know the cost. I pulled it out of the box and immediately was taken back by this thin and light laptop with these few excellent quality laptop identifiers like the keyboard deck and trackpad. Two important things to me as a creator. So I went and I looked up the cost. I found that the ProBook 630 G8 in the i7 variant is priced above the Swift 3 Ryzen 7 version at around $1,400 with the model I have configured. Now that's slightly above the Swift 3 with the Ryzen 7, which can be found around the $800 price range. Now at $950 for the i5 variant, you can get it a little bit closer in cost. And I think the i5 would perform close to the Ryzen 7, especially that it's the i7-1165G7. But that i7 is going to put you back a little bit more money if you want to get the slightly more powerful version. And I'm going to do a head-to-head of the i7 versus the i5. I have two models with almost the exact same specs. They're just different form factors. So look for that review. I'll link it up in the YouTube cards above when it's out. Now, if you want to pick up a similar i7-1165G7 Acer Swift 3X, then you're taking only a $150-ish difference as the laptop retails for around $1,250. Now, if you're wondering why I'm not reviewing them head-to-head in that specific way, well, I wish I could, but Acer has yet to send me one for review. So fingers crossed that I can get one in for review soon, and I'll do a more proper head-to-head review between two processors that are the same. Okay, I digress, but I feel like questions would arise, comments would be made, so I wanted to address those details. Let's talk about the hinge. They are the same, both open and close smoothly, but even more important than the hinge, I want to address how each company went about the ergonomics of opening and closing the lid. If you look at the front of each of these laptops, you will see that Acer provides a notch for your fingers to grip the lid, whereas HP builds the ability for your fingers to grip the screen right into the design. I think this is so clever and a great hat tip to HP for this. If I dare say, it is great design and thoughtfulness. You don't have to necessarily find the notch. The whole front bezel is a notch. The top and bottom bezel of the ProBook are slightly angled in, creating a perfect ledge for your fingers to grip the screen and pull it open easily. This could go easily overlooked, and I love when companies design this way. Well done, HP. The Swift 3 and the ProBook come with very similar ports, so there is nothing really to write home about here. However, the ProBook does come with an SC slot for enterprise level security. Basically, this is a chipped card that when inserted into the computer allows you to access it and is a form of two-factor authentication. Not really useful to me or most creative professionals, but it does allow them to sell these computers to government contracts where they need heightened security. Another hat tip for the HP ProBook comes in the form of speakers on the top of the keyboard deck that have excellent audio. And let me tell you, to see audio, to hear audio this good on a laptop below $2,000 is pretty great. The Swift 3 has the standard under the keyboard deck speakers that are good, but not impressive by any stretch of the imagination. Here's a quick sample of the HP ProBook 630 G8's audio for you to take a listen for yourself. Right now. Regarding the fan noise and cooling, both of these laptops run cool and fairly quiet. While using the Swift 3, I noticed the fans kick on while web browsing to around 47 decibels, whereas the ProBook was only around 37 to 40 decibels. While exporting video projects and working in Photoshop, I found the fans would kick up to about 48 decibels for the Swift 3 and about 47 decibels for the ProBook. Now, to check how well the fans did cooling the components during these different tests, here are the benchmark results. If you're enjoying this video and getting some value, then just ever so gently press down on that like button. And let me know in the comment section how you plan on using this laptop. I'm super curious. Also, if you don't want to miss out on the future uploads, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss any of those. On to the main event, the performance benchmarking test between the Acer Swift 3 and the HP ProBook 630. The Acer Swift 3 I'm reviewing comes with the Ryzen 7 4700U with 8 cores and 8 threads, the AMD Radeon 7 graphics, 8 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and 512 gig SSD. Whereas the ProBook 630 G8 comes with the Intel 11th Gen Core i7-1165G7 with 4 cores and 8 threads, so it has less cores, but equal amount of threads. The Intel Iris Xe graphics, 16 gigs of RAM, so it has more RAM than the Swift 3. So we're kind of getting a little bit of even out here. Like I said, when I get a Swift 3X, I'll put it in the studio and hopefully we'll have an exact head-to-head comparison. For now, I'm working with what I got. And 512 gig SSD for the Swift 3. Kicking things off, we are going to jump into the simulated benchmark tools to see how each of these laptops handle Cinebench and Geekbench. This will be an interesting head-to-head because the Swift 3 and the HP ProBook 630 both come with slightly different cores and threads. Getting out of the simulated benchmark tests and onto the real-world apps, let's take a look to see how well these laptops will perform in Adobe's design suite by benchmarking them with the Puget Systems Photoshop benchmark. Both laptops perform well in regards to the points scored. The Swift 3 only falls slightly behind the HP ProBook 630, the Swift 3 with a 478, and the ProBook with a 505. Now onto my favorite benchmarking test, video editing. And this is where the Swift 3 gets a little in over its head. First, I'm going to start off with a playback test. For this test, I'm using a 9-minute 1080p clip, adding some motion graphics, and then playing it back in the timeline at full quality. The full clip contains 16,177 frames in total, with 7,240 of those frames being motion graphics. During this test, the Swift 3 saw drop frame rates as follows. At full quality, 1,557, at half quality, 171, and at fourth quality, 113. So not an insane amount of drop frames, but we are talking 1080p, so it's a little higher than I would have expected for 1080p. The HP ProBook 630 G8 saw drop frame rates as follows. At full quality, 4 drop frames, at half quality, 0, and at fourth quality, 0. So the HP ProBook 630 G8 is going to be really your go-to for playback, but let's check out the export times. For the export time, Premiere Pro 1080p to 1080p, it took the ProBook 630 1 minute and 58 seconds and the Swift 3 2 minutes and 32 seconds. So pretty similar for export times. Now in DaVinci Resolve, things took a little bit of a different turn because Ryzen is far more optimized for DaVinci Resolve. For DaVinci Resolve 1080p to 1080p export, it took the HP ProBook 10 minutes and 27 seconds. And in DaVinci Resolve for the Swift 3, it took 5 minutes and 23 seconds. Both of these laptops would make really solid 1080p video editing laptops with medium to complex projects. I think that you're going to get a little bit better playback and performance if you're in Premiere Pro out of the HP ProBook. And then if you want to work in DaVinci Resolve, you might want to go with Ryzen. I think these laptops are great to get started on video editing passion projects and YouTube. I don't recommend them for 4K. I ran both of these laptops through my 4K benchmarking tests, and they really struggled to perform at a suitable level to get my full thumbs up recommendation. So normally this is the part of the video where I would celebrate each of the laptops for their own respective benefits, but to be honest, they are so close outside of the trackpad and keyboard here in the HP ProBook. But I want to say that you need to make the decision without any input on this one. I've given you the data. Head down in the description below if you're curious about the exact availability or pricing of either of these laptops. And again, if you do make a purchase, I will get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. If you have questions, comment below. I'd love to see if I can get to those. Comments and questions have been crazy busy lately, but I'm doing my best to try and keep up on more recent videos. If you want more videos about the Acer Swift 3 or the ProBook, click or tap the screen over here. Otherwise, keep editing, keep creating, keep designing. My name is Benji Kaiser, and I'll see you here on the next one.